breaking down the deals, data, and disruption shaping global markets. You're listening to The Daily Ledger with Dennis Sert.
Hey folks, it is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. You're listening to The Daily Ledger Show, and I am your host, Dennis Sert. Great to be here with you today. We got a good show lined up today. We're going to discuss AI arriving in Gmail. 2026 may be the year of the mega IPO. Amazon is buying first new copper output in more than a decade. Spotify increases prices of premium subscriptions. And finally, U.S. cargo tech company publicly exposed its shipping systems and customer data to the web. So we're going to talk about all that today. Before we do, let's talk on the market news and indicators. Dow Jones is up 0.64% this morning. NASDAQ is S&P 500 is up 0.59%. And Bitcoin is down 0.88%, down to 95,661. Before we talk about today's stories, make sure to download Byte AI Market Analysis, which is a financial co-pilot that tells you when you should enter and exit the stock market for any of your given stocks. It does it based off of technical indicators, which is like a mathy way to look at entry and exit signals, like the Bollinger Bands, RSI curve, and MACD curve, as well as news sentiment and analysis. And it refreshes about every half hour, so it's a great day trading tool. Of course, it's not financial advisor, and neither am I, but and past success does not indicate future results. However, it's a tool I use every morning to trade with Robinhood, so make sure to download off the App Store, Byte AI Market Analysis. Okay. AI assistant Gemini can create a to-do list based on recent emails, among other new tricks. There are implications for your privacy. So my take on this is that I actually tried this myself. Before I actually say that, there are companies that do this, right? So there's this company called April, which was in one of the more recent YC batches. Apparently they're doing pretty well. I'm not following like too closely, but I guess they have some solid MRR. So they're doing that, but they're not like a household name, and they haven't, from what I understand, kind of like broken through into the national zeitgeist. Right. So, but they are out there. I had this thing called Secretary AI, which was basically similar. I actually didn't know that they were about their existence until after I saw their YC demo day. But my thing was basically ChatGPT that connects to your Gmail or Outlook, and then it does like scheduled AI calls to you, and it basically talks to you about your like to-do list items and like your main objectives, and like if there's any outstanding invoices, basically anything important. And I ended up kind of adding a few features to that. So there was this extra feature where it was like you add keywords for emails you don't want to miss, and then it texts you about that. And then I had a thing for like call screening where it generates one, and then anyone who calls that, you can like customize the call screening so it can forward it to you or not. So I actually pulled the plug on this yesterday or the other day because I didn't see any market pull for it. I was kind of, at first I tried direct to consumer, and I was like, no, let me make this business to business, which is what I prefer. And then I started selling to like vet clinics and like pet clinics, like veterinarians. And I realized, at least in Jacksonville, it's like there was a lot of friction, like, and that's gonna tie into my main point. It's like I I walked into a lot of these offices, and while I was charismatic and everything, it was, you know, I feel like these receptionists were a little worried that they would lose their jobs. And this kind of ties into my point, which is like when you're deciding to do a startup idea or you have a new like I don't want to call it a gimmick, but it's like you have if you're Google and you introduce Gemini into Gmail, let's start with the startup thing. It's like you have to make sure that your problem that you're solving is a hair on fire problem. Like you have to target like your target customer profile needs to be a potential customer who is so desperate that they may lose their job over not having the solution. Like that is the type of startup you need to have where you come in and you solve this problem. Because if you solve like a vitamin, right, as an analogy, like if it's just like a supplement, it's like a nice to have, then you run into problems where it's like, you don't get there's no like payment, there's no retention metrics, there's no anything. Like they just don't care about it. And like that can happen to a startup is like apathy, right? It's not even like bad press. Um so it's like So yeah, so that's why I sort of killed Secretary AI. The server costs were kind of getting high, and it's like, but that's I learned quite a bit out of it. I learned how to write code in like Go and like Svelte. But it's like tying it to this article here, right? Like I personally didn't really see a lot of like hair on fire need for something like this. And the problem is like the average normie or like the average direct to consumer user is extremely stingy. And I hate to say that, right? Like because I don't really want to put down like a potential customer or anything. Like that's not my style, but it's like the it's extremely difficult to target direct to consumer, right? That's why like DoorDash, for instance, is an example of a very successful direct to consumer, startup idea, right? Why? Because if you're kind of like bed rotting, with your girlfriend and you're both scrolling TikTok at 9 p.m. on a Friday, then it's like you're not gonna want to go get pizza. You're not gonna want to go get chow mein or whatever. You're gonna just like order food. Like that is something that you will pay for. But it's like those two same like customer profiles are probably not gonna go like you know unless it satisfies an immediate need. They're not gonna go like, oh my god, connect ChatGPT to their Gmail and then like pay $20 a month for that. You know what I mean? So it's like there's got to be a hair on fire. Of course, like when you bring it to um like big tech, like yes, they have a little bit more leeway because they have cash to burn and they also have the dev hours to spare because they just have like armies of software engineers. So there's not that same like impetus to sort of like, hit the nail on the head with everything. But I will be curious to see like how the market reacts to this because like you can't be naive and be like, oh my God, this is like almost like this is gonna certainly like take over the market because you look at again like Gemini and Google Meets. Well, it's like, okay, well, I mean, no one really uses that, right? Um Zoom's like AI assistant. Nobody really uses that, right? People use Otter, people use Circleback, people use like, other startups that niche in this area and have already gotten large customer bases, right? Um so and just because of my experience with Secretary AI, which I was doing since like the summer, so like for about 6 months that was his lifespan. It's like I had anyone can kind of go deeper into their niche, but it's like I feel like I went pretty deep enough for 6 months, and it's like I feel like there's a lot of apathy in this space, and that's why it kind of it makes me sick a little bit. So that's why I left. Right. I decided to put my attention and server costs back into Byte AI, back into other stuff. Um, like I'm for example, I might be like doing Kalshi predictions with Byte AI. Like I'm kind of considering that into moving into that space. Like prediction markets. Cause I think that's where things are going. Like I feel like nobody really cares about stocks, which kind of super weird. People care about prediction markets now. So that I mean, stay tuned. That may be where Byte AI is going. But it's like, it's not about failure. It's about like pivoting. You know what I mean? Like you don't really fail until you actually like throw in the towel, which I'm not doing. But yeah, so that's a bit of a monologue on that. Now that being said, I saw this morning on X from David Lieb, who's a general partner at Y Combinator, and he goes, and I think he posted this yesterday morning. He goes, 7 months later, my AI assistant knows anything I know, including when my last haircut was. Wish it had iMessage access. It's pretty tough to get, by the way. Like Apple is pretty like stingent on iMessage like integrations, but so you read a screenshot is of his Google Gemini, I guess, and apparently it had connected with his Gmail. So he goes, "When was my last haircut?" And then Gemini responds, "Based on your Gmail records, your most recent haircut and beard trim was on Friday, December 12th, 2025." And then kind of gives more information on that, which is kind of cool. And then he kind of like just like compares that with ChatGPT, where he goes, "When was my last haircut?" And then it's like, "Oh, I don't know." Pretty based answer, if you ask me. But yeah, so I don't know, because there's a little bit of hype, and I like David. David's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean we've interacted a few times when I was there during the W24 batch. He's a cool guy. But like, is it the SF bubble that the hype, or is sort of the null hypothesis correct, where it's like no one really cares? You know what I mean? Unless you're about to be fired and this solution is the thing that stops you from being fired, it's like that's kind of the optimal thing that your startup can solve. If you like really want to win, like that, you kind of get the secrets from here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. 2026 may be the year of the mega IPO. If SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic go public, they will unleash gushers of cash for Silicon Valley and Wall Street. So this is actually pretty wild. This year, we may see a lot of money moving around in Silicon Valley. I thought what was interesting was kind of talks about that, and then says, while Facebook and Google, which went public in 2004, were profit machines with huge growth and great barriers to entry before their IPOs, the AI companies appear to be losing a lot more money and have a constant need to raise more. That doesn't fill me with confidence, he said. It doesn't leave me clamoring to get my hands on these when they go public. And this is Paul Wick, a public market tech investor for the last 30 years at Seligman Investments. And then, yeah, in the rest of the article, it talks about how cool it is and everything. But yeah, I think I still think that it's not like a bubble akin to the .com bubble. I think I kind of solidified my stance on that like about a month ago. So I'm still like congruent with that. But I did want to just like, read this article kind of on air, like not the whole thing, but just like as much as I did, just so it's kind of in the zeitgeist. You know what I mean? Amazon is buying America's first new copper output in more than a decade. The copper, which is being produced in Arizona by Rio Tinto with bacteria and acid, will be used for data center construction. So honestly, like hats off to Amazon. I mean, they don't play, right? I mean, everyone's kind of hungry for building data centers now. And I guess there isn't too much mining going on in the US compared to like China and like kind of Latin America, South America. And it's like, I mean, these guys are kind of dogs despite the fact that they're big tech. So hats off to them. Nice. You know what I'm saying? Spotify increases price of premium subscriptions. New pricing is slated to take effect in US in February. You know, the reason why I thought this article was noteworthy enough to talk about is because it's only increasing $1, and then suddenly it's like they have to make a huge public statement, and then they have to do this whole thing. Occasional updates to pricing across our markets reflect the value that Spotify delivers, enabling us to continue offering the best possible experience and benefit artists. Like for $1 per user, like I understand that with 710 million like users, right? Even if like I don't know, 5 or 10% kind of get lopped off as a result of a change, it's like is it really worth it? Like just like the effort and the cost of the reputational effort, like and just like basically the you know, the it's not really a speech, but like the statement that the spokesperson has to give to justify like this increase in price. Like that alone costs more than like a $1 increase is worth, right? Like why not increase it by kind of like a hefty amount, kind of like what YouTube Premium did, where they were like $12.99 and then they suddenly went up to $17.99 and nobody batted an eye a couple years ago. So it's like, why don't they go competitive with YouTube Premium, right? Which I made the switch personally like 2 years ago, and I never looked back from Spotify to YouTube Premium. Just the library is so much more expansive on YouTube than it is on Spotify. Spotify is a little bit more like you have to sort of strictly be on the mainstream, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I like my slowed down music or my like higher beats per minute music, like when I'm doing cardio. Um, and there's certain artists who will like change the tempo for you and then just make it a video of its own on YouTube, and then you can listen to that on YouTube Premium through the app. But you can't do that with Spotify. So it's like, oh wow, that kind of sucks. So that's why I left. Um, but it's like, where are your guys' balls? Like Spotify, like why don't you just increase it from 12 to like $18 just like YouTube Premium did 2 years ago? Like why $1? Like the amount that again, like the statement, you know, all the stuff, the whole article, right? That Wall Street Journal writes on them. It's also in TechCrunch. It's like it's not worth it. Like cuz like you kind of can't do it again without a reputational hit. Like if you decide to up your prices again 6 months or even a year from now, it's like you're going to get some ire. See, it's actually a huge missed opportunity. Right? So it's like dumbasses. This is the last story. US tech company publicly exposed its shipping systems and customer data to the web. The story and the TLDR is that there was this like white hat hacker, which basically means it's like a hacker who kind of like quote unquote ethically hacks, and then the point is like you find a bug in security and then you're supposed to report it to the company, and then you know you get like money from that. They call it like bug bounties. But apparently this like I guess like white hat hacker, I guess he wasn't even looking for money necessarily, but But he found this like huge vulnerability where uh Blue Spark Global, which apparently services like hundreds of big companies, like household names, he basically found the security vulnerability where like anybody can read the manifests and basically just do whatever they want, become like an administrative user. It's like stuff you shouldn't be allowing to do, because someone can just kind of take down like, you know, all of logistics, right? Like not all, but like a significant portion of logistics, um, throughout the U.S. and I guess the world. And it's like, so this guy, he found this vulnerability, tried to report it, and then the company never responded. And after weeks and months, and eventually the guy goes to like TechCrunch, and then TechCrunch reaches out to the CEO. The CEO doesn't respond. But then what happens is the CEO's like lawyer responds to TechCrunch. And then yeah, after that, they were finally able to figure it out, and then I guess they like solved the issue. But like, the issue is that the CEO, like, if you're an executive, right, you kind of have to be obsessed with the customer, like at all costs. And I've talked about this before, but it's like, if you kind of start getting high off yourself, and you kind of forget what you're doing, and you're just like, oh man, like, we're all stardust, aren't we? Like, what's going on? And you kind of like delegate to the point where it's like you don't even care about anything. Yeah, that's a really big problem. Because at the end of the day, like, titles don't really mean anything. It has to do, like, you have to be careful, like, because again, like I said, titles don't mean anything. You have to know what positions you have to be in to be powerful within the company. Um, like, there are certain things you have to have in like the contract in order to sort of ensure your stability. And I'm going to leave it there. But going back to sort of this, like, on the dot, it's like, if you're the Blue Spark CEO and you have a vulnerability, and you're aware of a vulnerability that's like that could take down your entire business, and it's like you kind of need to get it solved like ASAP. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, oh, I won't talk to you, random white hat hacker. I won't talk to you, TechCrunch, right? It's like idiots, man. Um, I mean, you can't ever let titles get to your head. Titles don't mean anything at all. Truly. Um, yeah, like when it comes to like org charts, if you're not the boss, you're an employee. There's really no between. Like, you're either the boss or you're not, right? So that's kind of how it runs, and nobody really tells you that, right? It's just the way it is. So it's like, yeah, but you kind of have to. So it's like I'm tying that into Blue Spark CEO who thinks he's some shit, and it's like, and yet the company's about to like kind of fall under his purview, and yeah, he's too busy not responding to people. It's like, okay, you keep doing that. I think we're gonna end it there. Um, hope you guys make lots of money in the any losses, if any. Um, today's Thursday, so tomorrow's Friday. I will be seeing you tomorrow morning, bright and early, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow.